Good morning, or rather good afternoon to all of you. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm so pleased to be with my homegirl Madge here. It's so nice. My dad was a veteran of World War II, and late in his life suffered from Alzheimer's disease. My mom was his primary caregiver. I witnessed firsthand the devastation that memory loss visits upon not only the sufferer, but secondarily the primary caregiver and the entire family. My folks have been gone for over 20 years. My mom followed my dad just a couple of months later. Caregiving for a person with memory loss is the most difficult task, I believe, in the whole world. I wanted to do something positive, something great for other families going through the same circumstance. And I've come to find over the years that there's an awful lot of families that are visited by memory loss. And of course, when I'm talking about memory loss, I'm talking about Alzheimer's disease, I'm talking about the other dementias, I'm talking about memory loss from traumatic brain injury, I'm talking about memory loss from PTSD, and all the other causes. Interesting thing about memory loss, memory loss doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what branch of the service you were in. It doesn't care whether you're a man or a woman. It doesn't care what your rank was. Memory loss is just a brutal and cruel enemy. And I think my sense is that you know of what I speak. I was so pleased to have come up with the idea for life in the U.S. military. This was the answer to my promise to myself to create something that would have a positive effect on veterans with memory loss. This extremely deceptively simple book, when we took it out to trials in the VA, and some of you have seen the book, it has images of iconic, common aspects of military experience. Buzz cuts, peeling potatoes, barracks, jeeps, salutes, flag raisings, all just common experiences. The VA was blown away by the reaction that we were getting in hospitals all around the country. Positive responses where folks who had not been speaking at all for in many cases, many months, all of a sudden they would see a canteen or they would see a pup tent and out would come a story. And once, twice, so many times now, impossible to count, caregivers calling us and contacting us saying, well, of course, this is no cure. I mean, the last thing I want to do is overstate what this does. It doesn't cure anything. It's a momentary opportunity to reconnect, a momentary opportunity to reconnect. And when the Ladies Auxiliary VFW nationally got wind of this, they contacted me even before I made my presentation to the executives of all the veterans serving organizations. And they said, we love this. This speaks to our passion and our goal. What is your goal? They asked Jan Owens, what is your goal? I said, my goal is to get this book into the hands of each family caring for the 600,000 veterans, 600,000 veterans who have memory loss. And Jan said, how long do you think that'll take? And I said, well, 3 years. 3 years. And she said, we would like to partner with you for 3 years and assist to get these books into the hands of these 600,000 veterans. And she said, because we know those veterans, the Ladies Auxiliary VFW and the VFW, who I'll be addressing shortly, we know who these folks are. They're our friends and associates and neighbors. And together we can achieve this. After she said that, I turned right around and I made a pledge. I made a pledge of $1.5 million to the Ladies Auxiliary VFW. I hadn't planned on getting, it's like, I hadn't planned on having somebody want to adopt it even before I had taken it out. It was like, wow, this is too soon, you know. I'm not ready. I haven't suffered enough, you know. But so I turned around and I made this pledge, which and what that does is that creates an opportunity for the Ladies Auxiliary to benefit greatly on a number of different levels. But most importantly, it's getting this book into the hands of the families and friends and associates of those veterans who have memory loss. You know, General Douglas MacArthur had said, old soldiers never die, they just fade away. And I believe that if a soldier or a veteran has memory loss, they fade away even faster. But what this book does in its daily activity, and the daily activity is very simply going through the book, is it delays the fading. It delays the fading. Let me tell you a couple of very quick stories. Frank was a 92-year-old veteran of the North African campaign. Frank had not spoken a word for, I believe it was 6 months. His wife had purchased the book, and they're being visited by their grandson, David. And David and Grandma said, open this up and just flip through the pages with Grandpa, see what happens. It was the canteen, the picture of the canteen, simple canteen in here, that caused Frank to sit bolt upright in bed, and he said, remember this is a North African campaign, he said, I'll never forget that day in Egypt. It was hot as blazes when me and Danny and Charlie and Duke, we rode camels by the pyramids. And he said, we drained every last drop from those old canteens. There wasn't a drop left. And then he said, whoo, those camels, they had some serious BO. Well, David immediately cracked up. Susan, his wife, Frank's wife, poked her head in, and she started to laugh. Frank started to laugh. Everybody was laughing, and the dog woke up with a start. Dog started to howl. And so, but what was happening was, there was Frank in the center of all of this, having caused this beautiful ruckus. Having caused this beautiful ruckus. Another story, more current. Frank was 92. I had a story from a lady who I met in San Antonio, who before the conference, she had asked me for a book. We sent a copy of the book. Her husband was a Gulf War veteran. 8 years out of the service, has never spoken a word about his service. He was fortunate, he had no physical disabilities, but he'd never spoken a word about his time in the service. And they had gone to counseling together, and he just never was able to do it. So she said, I've tried everything. Let me buy the book and put it on the coffee table and just see what happens. That's what she did. And she came to me in San Antonio, and she told me the story that she put the book on the table and she walked out of the room. About a half an hour later, he called her in. He said, honey, would you mind sitting down? I'd like to do some sharing with you. And he spent a half an hour talking about his experiences in the Gulf War. The first words that she had ever heard him speak about it. She wanted to holler, she's a Texas girl, so naturally she wanted to holler, yippee, on the top of her lungs, but she thought that would scare the daylights out of him, so she grabbed a pillow on the way out of the living room, and she took it outside, and she buried her head in it, and she yelled, yippee, real loud, but it didn't upset him. But, so, here is this circumstance, here is this simple book that is causing something positive to happen. Something positive to happen, and let's be honest about it, folks and family members who are caring for a person with memory loss, be it veteran or non-veteran, there hasn't been a lot of good news about memory loss. They still don't have a cure, and we don't know when that's going to happen. And while that's in an abstract way, you know, they're still working on it and they'll come up with something, but what does that say about what we can do today? I'm a big believer in, let's do something today. What can we do? This is what we can do today. This is what we can do today. In support of the book, I'm doing a national radio show every week. It's called Operation Never Forget. It's about the issues facing veterans with memory loss, but frankly, it focuses on the caregivers. What I've discovered in my work on behalf of veterans with memory loss is that you can't work on behalf of veterans with memory loss without working on behalf of the caregivers who are caring for those people with memory loss. They are our home front heroes. They are unsung. They are tireless because the disease unfortunately demands at a certain point it's 24/7. So my goal is to create support for those caregivers, respite opportunities for those caregivers, lending a hand. When I talk to the guys, see, I don't have to talk to you guys about caregiving and sympathy and empathy. You're women, you're from Venus, you get it. They're from Mars over there. I'm from Mars too, but I speak a little Venusian. And so the idea is that we're all better off. We're all better off when Martians speak a little Venusian and the Venusians speak a little Martian. And none of this makes any difference unless it's the districts and the departments and the posts that get lit up about it. I'm so proud about being part of this, the national program, but the national program has got no legs. You're the legs of the national program. You're the people who take the message back out there. And you're the stalwart ones who showed up even in the bad weather. So when you get back to where you're from, where your districts are and your posts, this is only going to be worthwhile if you remember to talk about it from time to time, just from time to time. You know, I wish I could have shared this book with my own dad. It's one of the reasons why I made it so cool, why it looks so good and why it feels so good, because my dad even in his dementia would have touched this book and liked the way it felt. What we're finding is people are holding on to this book, they love the book, it just feels good in the hand. I wish I could have shared it with my own dad. I can't do that, but by sharing it with you, we can share it with other dads and other brothers and other sisters and other aunts and other uncles. This is something quite special. We're not going to forget our veterans with memory loss. We're not going to forget their caregivers and family members. And I won't forget you guys. Thank you. Thank you.